Welcome, adventurers, to the D&D character creation session. I am joined by the lovely Holly and Catherine, and Rob is viewing for a little bit. He's the ominous sky and the voice. I mean, wait, the voice in the sky.
Ominous voice. Ominous skies in your voice.
Right. So what we're basically going to be looking at character creation using D&D Beyond. I love D&D Beyond because it makes it very user friendly, especially for anyone who hasn't played D&D before. We're looking at Catherine's computer screen and just going to be going through the general character creation through that lens, but we are joined and might have side discussions about reasons we might choose or do stuff like that and whatnot. And yeah, so if you with D&D Beyond 2, one thing that's amazing is
Hello.
if as long as you have one person who's subscribed in some
Yes,
way, even a lower tier, they can share their content of source books if they accumulate them and whatnot. So so people can partner in together essentially if they wanted, and like help pay funds and stuff to get source books or pay for the subscription and just share all the content among each other if you join a campaign. So you join my campaign, I have all these source books, and you will be able to do a wide variety of characters. There is a free version of stuff on D&D Beyond that could be open to you, but it's limited but still playable and good if you just want to get the intro or whatever. So they have joined my campaign, this Kingdom of Improvia. Yes! And when you first start character creation, the screen will look somewhat like this. Here you can start to get a picture to your character if you wanted. You can add a name. There's a fantasy generator. I'm going a little fast. I guess I can wait. You can randomize it. And I should say, with all of this, is not set in stone. I like to say it's not set in stone until it comes out in the campaign. So if you're like unsure about what you want to do next, like as you're leveling up, and like just it's not solidified until you actively do it while we're playing or living or doing theater or gaming, whatever you're using D&D for. We use it for shows as well as for fun. All right. So, character name, character preferences. So this first page is actually going to be more of just the technical aspects of how you're going to play your D&D campaign. What do you want to limit the source content of your book? Some people think like homebrew content is completely made up stuff. Well, not completely made up. I mean, it's not official rules content, but I love it. Be creative as you want. That's what I say. So this basically though is like, some people don't think critical role content is like standard or in the D&D rule set, so they may not use it. I'm open to switching all of those things or in just being open to any of them. If you want, Catherine, you can go ahead and just knock those all to on. You might not use them. I know you were like, no thank you, Rick and Morty content, but
You have to call me.
oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sure I'll cut that out. I don't know.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm sure there's not too many hardcore Rick and Morty fans in the audience.
Yeah. Other than me. No, you're terrible. No. So, let's see. When it comes to advancement type, that's going to be your leveling scale, how you're going to level. And that's usually just pretty much up to the DM's discretion, which is like, as you kill things or do good role playing, you might be rewarded XP. XP is like experience points, is something that you probably heard before in other video games and content, and that would be like you gain enough XP to a certain extent, and then you level your character. A newer way is called milestones, which is how actually I have started playing recently. So if a character reaches a certain achievement, or they get past a certain part in the game, or something. It's really up to the DM's discretion. And you are then like, congratulations, you did this, and you are now level 2. You are now able to level up and level in experience. Milestones usually like you do an achievement to level up. So we'll just go ahead and stick with milestone. Makes things easier, not counting XP, and some people might fight over XP points then, and it gets a little wishy-washy. I mean, there's reasons for XP and there's reasons against XP. We're doing milestone. Okay.
I've only ever played XP, so I've never played milestone before, so it'll be new for me.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Milestone is the superior form for DMs, in my opinion.
Is it less
I would
mathy?
concur.
Is that all it is? To like take some of the math out of DMing kind of thing?
Part of it to take the math out, also to control the things a little easier, also for reward. You know, in the campaign I'm playing in, we leveled last night, and you know we didn't really level because we didn't fight much, but the 2 things we did were so valuable to the story arc that the GM was just, you guys leveled up.
Nice.
You know, we stole a diamond and I guess we air bombed a group of like several thousand zombies, which was pretty rad. You know, so it's one of those things where it gives the DM control, and it also is one less thing for the players to keep track of.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What I usually do is personally, in a game of like 4 or under, I'll keep it to XP, but when there's more people, XP takes way too long for a level up to happen. So I just start to go milestone for 5, 6, 7 players, because then I can just choose when they level up. We all have our different methods. It's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about D&D. Like, there's one set of rules, but I've never played D&D with 2 groups the same way.
Yes. It's a great thing about D&D. It's interpreted differently, and it's like what you and your group decide how to play together and make it the most best experience for you guys. Might not be the same for another group. I don't know. The next thing that we would look at is hit points. Hit points, this is going to be like how, when you level up, how your hit points level along with you. Which there's fixed, which kind of, I think, just takes the average always whenever you would level, what you would roll, and then it just makes that your hit point maximum. And then there's manual, which is what I like, because it's just a little more physical, a little more intimate, a little more fate throwing you caution against the wind, which is you actually have to roll dice every time you level up to determine how many points you're gaining. That and your constitution modifier, which we'll get into later. So we'll stick with manual. Allow restrict choices based on rule perusal. I never think about this here. I always just have those checked. I think that's basically... Oh, yeah. So those mean you can use feats. Feats are certain... Like, when you level up, you can sometimes, instead of choosing to add points to some of your abilities, you can just choose a feat, which is like a perk. If you were playing... Fallout, you get like certain perks, like sniper, you're really good with long weapons, or like it would be like great swords, or big weapons, you're good with big weapons, or it would be like you're really sneaky, or various feats which you can look up in your own time. By the way, the easiest thing to do if you're ever lost in D&D is we're on the internet now. I use the internet for everything. Just Google whatever you want to look up, 5e, and it'll probably come up. We're using 5e is the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons. I might jump all over the place like I do. I'm scatterbrains. Rein me in, you guys, if I am ever too crazy.
I have a question for you real quick. So
Yes.
A lot of these character choices they're giving us as the player the option, but it feels like they would be more like DM discretion option.
Yes and no, because I would say that yes, it mostly is up to the DM, but the DM should be listening to his players, and it should be a negotiation of like how you guys want to continue and play the game. And so when you guys finally agree upon these said rules and whatnot, then yeah, you move forward. So this will hopefully all be stuff that you've already talked about with the DM. I haven't even really ever read this show level scaled spells thing before. I kind of just glanced over it all the time. So I just leave that clicked on. So it's yes, I think. It says display and highlight available spells to cast with higher level spell slots. I believe that just means that. So if you have hold person, basically when you have your character sheet, it'll show your spells. And it'll show every spell you can cast at every level. So if that was clicked off, hold person is a second level or third level spell. Let's say it's a third level spell. Hold person is a third level spell. If you had that off, it would stay in its third level spell slot, even though you can cast it at higher levels. So really, it's better just to have that clicked on. Encumbrance. That's how much stuff you're carrying on you. You think of Zelda games with Link carrying all of his many items, and they somehow fit in all of his pockets, and he's still able to run around, even though he's got like his weighted boots that when he puts them on, he sinks, doesn't float to the bottom, he sinks to the bottom of like a lake, but then he like unequips them. He still has them on him, but for some reason the effect still isn't there. If the effect was still there, that would be like encumbrances on, and that's if you really want to be nitpicky and like calculate weight of items, which you can include coin weight. And so I'm always, I'm nothing against math, but I'm always on let's like not have as much math involved. So I don't care about encumbrance. It's like, so like there's another discussion. How gritty, how real do you want your game? Do you really want to be in the minute details? Is that fun for you? Then great. If not, then forget about it. All right, the next thing is really, this is a player preference. Ignore coin weight. I kind of briefly talked about that. You want that on, so because it doesn't matter. We're doing no encumbrance, but if you have it on, that means you are ignoring coin weight, I believe. The next thing is this. Now, this is actually the next two things on D&D Beyond here are going to be up to the player. So now, you have. Most of the game is going to rely on your ability score modifiers. These are based off of your ability points. These are how good you are at things. This is what you'll add to your dice rolls. So I find it super helpful and easier to have your modifiers on top, showing big and large rather than your ability scores, because those are what's most important. You're going to roll something and then he's going to be like, what's your modifier? And you're going to look right away at your modifier. You're not going to look at your points and then calculate your modifier or you get it. All right. And then but if you want it the other way, so be it. It's what you're going to look at. Character private. This is just if you want your character to be able to be seen by anyone else. If you shared your link or somebody somehow was searching for your D&D Beyond character and you wanted other people to see it. If you want it to be completely private, just change it to private. And we are done with the first page. Yeah. All right, race. This is where you select your race. Every race has their own attributes and abilities that add to your skills and whatnot. They might be good at one thing and bad at another, and there are a lot. Sometimes what I find helps me if I need to narrow down what I'm looking for to do. First I kind of think, what would be fun to play? What do I want to have a good time playing? It's always good to be thinking about how do you want to play your game and go into it. Do you like choosing a character archetype? Do you want to be archetype, whatever you say? Do you want to be the tank? You want to take all the damage and you want to be really physical, herdy, smashy smash? Do you want to be stealthy? Do you want to be suave, charismatic? There's going to be certain races and classes that play to those archetypes. But you could always play against that too. Like if I want to be a giant who's a rogue. So like, or I know somebody who played an elephant race that wanted to be like a ninja rogue. So an elephant had to like sneak in a room. and like try and be hidden. Loxodon, there you go. Loxodon, elephant race. And like just the hilarity ensued. It just sounds like a fun time. And like I played a character once, a pixie, a little like 12-inch pixie, barbarian. So it's like a rage barbarian pixie that's just trying to like hurt things. And there's like something for everything. You know, there's the typical dwarves, elves, whatnot. I have some homebrewed races in here. You can play a cat. You can play a mouse. There's bird people. There's like angel people. We got dragonborns, which are like humanoid dragons, descendants of dragons. We got genies, all kinds of things. So it's really countless, whatever here. Catherine, any ideas what you're thinking about playing?
I'm rocking with like that same energy of like 13-year-old making an OC for the first time. I'm gonna make myself an angel person.
All right, Holly, what do you got? Any ideas?
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with Water Genasi. It's on there, so I'm gonna hit it up.
Cool. So one cool and useful and helpful thing with D&D Beyond is if you click on any of these races, it'll give you a brief description about them. It'll show you their race characteristics, what your racial traits are going to give you to your ability scores, +2 to charisma. We got dark vision. He can see in the dark. Not completely, like, people get confused with dark vision sometimes. Dark vision really kind of it's more like a dog's vision in the darkness, depending on the degree of dark vision. It's like more kind of gray than it is like I can see everything perfectly or anything. But that's up to the discretion of the DM and you and what you guys agree on and how critical you want to be on everything. But so yeah, you can go along and read all these things, and if you think it sounds great to you, then awesome, more power to you. If you want to delve deeper into like creating a background and finding out more about these races and characters, Google it and you'll find more information. If you want that to inform what you got going on. So now when you, another
Actually,
thing is...
I have a question real
yes.
quick.
Yeah, no problem.
Can we play half races?
Yes. I mean, there are like half elves and there are other races. I'm not sure what actual half races are available or what I have listed. You might need to make a homebrewed race if you were like a half dragonborn, half halfling. Which if you listen to Adventure Zone, there's like this one episode where a dragonborn is having a baby with a halfling, and I was really curious how that would work out. But and when it comes to homebrew content, I would say that's up to you to negotiate with your DM about what is acceptable and what like wouldn't go or something like that. But yeah, you could do I would say there could be like a half water elemental genie, half whatever, if you were looking into doing something crazy like that.
It would be half Water Genasi, half human, essentially.
Yeah.
Well,
dope.
What's interesting is, and of course depends on the lore of whatever game you're playing. But Genasi are already half genie, half mortal race, because genies are like these powerful beings. So if you're being a Genasi, it's usually like this powerful genie got it on with a human or an elf or something, and like that Genasi elemental blood.
Never mind, that's what I want.
You know, Catherine actually may be way more knowledgeable about this stuff than me, actually.
I used to play a fire Genasi.
I mean, overall, I think with what we've talked about, you've actually had more experience in D&D than me, just saying in general. So maybe you should be leading this yourself, but no, I mean, we're doing it together. We're all leading. We're all, I don't know.
The company leads.
Yes.
There's no CEOs. The company leads.
There we go. So as you can see here, once you have chosen your race, it'll go to the page basically like what you saw, the description of it, but it'll be more condensed, and you can go to like these chapters kind of and click on those pluses, and it'll expand and tell you more about what you get in each of these categories. They use this format in future pages that make it very easy for you to see, go back and like sort through all the information. So once you have your race done, the next most important step is class. Class. This is going to be how your character fights or interacts in the world. Their abilities, their magic abilities, their fighting abilities. What are they? A fighter? Are they a spellcaster? Do they do this? Do they do that? What have you? Once again, you can click on all of these, and they'll give you a brief description about what they do. Now, this goes back again to like thinking about what archetype you want to play or how you want to have fun. It's like, how do you want to play D&D? Do you want to be clever and cast spells? Do you want to be charismatic? And do you want to be a spellcaster and a fighter and be somewhere in between? That'd be like a bard who's charismatic and could do things with music. Or, I mean, a bard can be an actor, a comedian, a songwriter, musician, right? And all kinds of things. And like, so there's like further things within these classes that are broken down into even further things. So eventually you get to subclasses, and you got to choose those, and it gets pretty complicated down the line. But one thing that's great about D&D Beyond is it kind of leads you through those things as you level up. That's why it's always good also to start at level 1, I think, is you slowly become more familiar with your abilities as you go. Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
I don't have your stuff here.
No? Okay. So what you need to do... Did you click the link for my campaign?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have an account and you joined successfully?
It says my campaigns. You haven't joined or created any campaigns yet.
Oh, dearie me. Let me try sending the link to you again.
Not to derail this, but like, I
don't
have Blood Hunter available to me.
Oh, bummer. Oh,
Blood Hunter would be sick.
That might actually be, Catherine, if you don't mind going back to home, or not home. Yes, home, actually. Home? Is it home? You have to have all of the Critical Role content clicked on to be able to see that.
I do. I have it all on.
Okay, then you just haven't gotten to the campaign, I guess. Copy link. I'm going to send the link in the Zoom chat.
Yeah, I think it might have been a thing where clicking the link and then it goes, you have to make an account before you can start. Then you made an account, then it brought you to your home page rather than the campaigns page.
Right. So now that that could definitely be it. Now that you have an account, if you click this link, it should pop you right into the campaign.
Okay, well, I'm going to very quickly rush through and create this character with all the stats, because we're not that deep in, so it won't take that long.
No problem. Yeah, so D&D Beyond will... let's go ahead and choose a race, or I guess briefly I'll go over some of them real quick. All right, we talked about like if you wanted to be a tank and like smashy damage. We have a barbarian or a fighter or a monk tend to be the most like straightforward smashy fighting classes. And then we have somewhere in between of then let's go straight up to casters, we could say. Cast and doing magic. We got the sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. Sorcerer is kind of like a mutant, I would compare him to in normal everyday life. They were born with magic power usually, or they have magic because of some sort of origin story origin. Either they were born with it, or they were so close to death as a child, or that like shadow realm bled into them, and they're shadow sorcerers and yada yada. Wizards are nerds magic nerds. They went to school for their magic and learned about spellcasting. Nerds. No. And warlocks are the edge lords of spellcasting. They created some sort of pact with like some being. Most of the time, demonic or evil beings. But they make a pact to gain their magic, a bargain with a extra planar entity. Yes.
That's class in the game.
Yeah. And there's so many things in between. You want a little bit of magic and but still kick-assery, choose paladin. They're like kind of religious. There's some religious figures. You can fudge all that too, though, if you want to not get into them. You can shape all these and meld them into however you want. The general kind of fill in the role that's missing in the party, and the healer is considered the cleric. Paladins also are great for healing. And the clerics have so many subdomains that like it's really like fill in the blank kind of. But you can have a lot of fun with clerics. One of my characters right now, I'm having the best time playing a forge cleric. I just made him. He's like super nerdy about blacksmithery and just like loves creating things. All right, let's go ahead. Catherine, which class were you thinking about choosing?
I'm gonna rock and roll with a smashy girl with barbarian.
There we go. All right, so go ahead and add your class. And look at that. There's some sort of little notification there next to proficiencies. Now, so D&D Beyond's great because as soon as you level or you choose a class, it's going to tell you, hey, you have some things to make decisions on here. And so you go in and you get to choose what you want proficiencies. Proficiencies are like, I, through my life, am extra good at this like certain skill or ability. And your skills and abilities are how you interact in the world. You're going to be good at some things and bad at others. You might be really good at fighting. You have all the strength as a barbarian, and so you're going to put your skills in probably athletics. So you can climb, you can swim, you can run, and you can smash. But you might not be very charismatic and have no diplomacy. Who knows? It's just how you want to interact in the world. So as you can see, you click down, tells you which skills or proficiencies you're able to go in on. So another thing is like, how do you want to play the game? There's this thing that you might hear sometimes called min-maxing, which is where you're basically trying to get the most effective character in a certain aspect as you can. And you can be very smart about how you choose your proficiencies and your skills. For a while, when I played the game, I would stack my ability modifiers, my skills, as much as possible to get the best possible rolls. So that, like, when I was level 5 Bard, I had, like, 11, plus 11 to all my, like, charisma checks. Well, not plus 11 to performance and persuasion. And like that's pretty good. So even if I roll a 4, I get a 15, which is usually a good pass. Yeah. So as you can see, Catherine has chosen athletics and perception. Well, when we when's the best time to talk? I forget when the best time is to talk about like skills.
Skills.
There's a skills page? I can't remember.
Abilities.
There's abilities. Abilities are going to go into your skill. That's a good time to talk about them, but which we'll go on to next. If you look back there too. Yeah.
Inside history, by the way, I'm going to be playing a wizard, a book wizard.
Hell
yeah. Nice.
But I have some questions in terms of these skills for the proficiencies real quick.
Yes.
So my character is kind of bookwormy. That's kind of her deal. It's just she's super smart. Because she studies like a mofo, and so if I were to do that, I think history would be a good skill to have, because you obviously learn when you're things you'd have histories of everything.
Yes.
But I'm kind of tuned back between insight and investigation. So which do you think, in your professional opinions, would be a better option for my bookwormy little water genasi girl?
Yeah. So here's a little bit of like questioning. This is like, do you like? Is it being more effective in gameplay, or being more true to your character in role playing? And it's like, how do you want to play the game? So what were your two choices you're like thinking about?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and rule out Arcana, Medicine, and Religion. I'm just gonna chop those three out. They're
Okay.
gone. So I'm between because those would be Sailor Mars things, not Sailor Moon. Anyway,
Or
I'm between Insight and Investigation. is where I'm
I would say that if your character's insightful, they're probably good at reading people, good at queuing in on people. So if you really want to be able to work the room a bit more and discern motive, insight would be the move. However, if your character's a bit bookish and doesn't interact very well with people, but interacts very well with problem solving, then investigation would be a very fun option. Because then when like you're trying to discern somebody if they're lying and your insight's bad, you're like, this person's not a book. I can't read them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Further
go ahead.
further clarification. So, just as Catherine said, is like insight is your ability to read people and know whether they're lying or true to what they're saying. Investigation is more environment and surroundings, and like can you figure out. So it's one thing that's very confusing that we'll see later on is whether you do a perception or investigation roll, and those terms kind of get loosely thrown around, and it depends on the DM's interpretation a lot. But like perception's usually how aware you are of the world. Like, so I see that there's some kind of trap ahead of me. Investigation is like, can you figure out how to disarm this, how the trap works, or can you disarm this trap, or figure out what you would need to do to disarm the trap, or can you, investigation would be like, oh, this is a perception, this is a puzzle. Investigation, this is how you solve the puzzle. And and that goes in the thing. So one thing I should have said, also going back, is when you're choosing your class is going to rely usually on one or two specific abilities for its main actions. I'm getting lost. So like a wizard. A wizard is smart and uses its intelligence to cast its spells. Right. So later, as you see on this next page with abilities.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Hello.
Oh, that is whoa. Character. I see it to the right. There you go. Abilities. So we'll be determining. We'll go over how to get your ability skills and where to put them. But you know that you're going to rely very heavily on intelligence, so you're going to try and usually make sure that your intelligence score is maybe the best score that you have. Unless you want to do something really funky for fun wise and be like, I have a really non-intelligent wizard. He's not very capable. So these are your core abilities. This is what all your modifiers are going to be based off of. These are how good you are at things in the world. Your ability scores are going to affect modifiers that you add to your rolls. So now you take now there are skills such as athletics, acrobatics, persuasion, deception, tons of them, which we'll show you on the character sheet later. When we went back earlier and we had proficiencies, those were what skills you're proficient in, and just give you a little extra boost to those skills. Now all those skills are tied to abilities. So strength is your athletics. What else is strength in, actually?
Strength, it's only athletics as a skill check.
So it's only athletics. That's right. Okay. A better example would be charisma. Charisma affects your persuasion, how well you persuade somebody. Deception, how well you tell a lie. and try and persuade somebody. And performance is your charisma as well. It's sometimes like you might try and like distract somebody with a musical number or acrobatics check or something like that. Dexterity. I should say strength will affect how well you wield a certain weapon. Same thing with dexterity. There's more weapons that rely on dexterity for weapons, which would be more like throwing knives or bows and arrows. But there are like more finesse weapons. Bigger weapons, barbarians will tend to use like battle axes, great swords, and other things. When you're looking at weapons, they'll usually tell you what if they're based off dexterity or strength. Dexterity is also affects your. I'm going all over the place. I need to hone this in somehow. So I just talked about strength. I'll go talk about dexterity. Dexterity now will also affect your AC, your AC armor class. Your AC is it's so when somebody's attacking you, they will roll their dice and they'll take their number with their modifier, and if it's higher than your AC, they hit you. If it's lower than your AC, they do not hit you. You dodged, or you blocked, or you skillfully did multiple flips away from them. Well, just as long as you disengage, otherwise they get attack of opportunity. Never mind. That's more advanced stuff. Constitution is going to be your health points, your ability to drink and not get drunk, your adversity to poison. Intelligence is going to affect your, if you're a wizard, that's your spell casting. And some of the blood hunters also use intelligence. Intelligence is going to affect your investigation and some other skills. You'll see that later. One thing I use a lot when I forget is I'll just look up skills 5e, and usually there'll be a list, and they'll also show you what ability score they go with. Wisdom. Clerics use a lot of wisdom. That's going to be like nature, survival, and some other skills. Clerics use wisdom for their spells. Charisma. Lots of sorcerers, warlocks use charisma as their spell casting. Bards use spell casting charisma, and that's going to affect a bunch of skills as well. All right, that was a lot. Oh, it's 2:05. I don't have actually a lot more time, so I might have to speed through this a little bit, but here we go. Let's go up, Catherine, if you don't mind. Choose generation method. Once again, this is for you guys to decide with your DM and whatnot. Standard array is where you get, there's 15's the highest you can get, and then there's 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 10 or something like that. And basically you'll be like, so you get those array of numbers, and you can place them in which ability score you want. Which could be, usually you'd put the 15 in what's most important. Then there's point buy, which is, I'm going to skip manual because manual is my favorite, so I'll talk about it last. Point buy is a similar idea that you have 26 points, and you put those points into, I think it's 26, right?
27.
27? 27. You get points, and you put them where you want the points. And you stack them as you go. It's similar to standard array, but a little different, as where you could have, you could put one or none in one skill, and that would be pretty bad. But you could have like one thing stacked. And then there's manual, which is once again actually rolling the dice and using fate a little bit to help you calculate your scores. And you can actually get pretty high sometimes. The max you can get is 18. People do this differently, a little bit. The way that I do it, and I have found that I like, is actually, if I can remember, it's actually been a while since I did it. The way that I used to do it is basically you roll 4d6, and then you take the lowest you roll 4d6 for each ability score, but you take the lowest So let's say we're rolling for strength. Let's go ahead and do that.
You want me to roll with my dice?
Yeah, go ahead.
Epic. That is, oh fuck. Oh, pardon my French. 2 6s, a 3, and a 2.
All right. So now that 2 you take and throw away. You throw away the lowest dice roll, and you're left with your ability score, which is 2d6 and the d3. So 15, which is not bad. I told him to roll for strength, but actually the way I like to do things is you do that 6 times, you get 6 numbers, you put those 6 numbers anywhere you want. I don't usually like to actually cornhole this into one ability score. It's some people do. I actually know this isn't how I do it all the time. Somebody gave me another method that I really liked that I forgot about. So that's the one method that I do remember. Yeah. Why don't you just go ahead and put some numbers in there and just randomly for now, Catherine, and we'll just see how that affects everything. All right, now let's go ahead and look down. All right, so one thing that's cool, D&D Beyond transfers over everything from your previous choices. So if you had a racial bonus, if you see down on charisma, due to the racial bonus of +2 to charisma, he has +2, and taking everything else into account, he ends up with the final score of 8. Now you see the modifiers below the total score is at that ability score level, you get that modifier. So unfortunately, 8 and 9 get a -1. It's only as soon as you start getting to 10 that you have like your neutral or start getting better at those things. So like a -1 is like you're very not good at that. A +0 or neutral is like you're an average person. Anything above that, you're a little bit better than the average person. That's how I like to rationalize it. Yeah. And you can see all his modifiers. We got strength total +3. No bonuses there. He got a racial bonus of +1 on Constitution, which brought up his score and gave him +1 modifier. All right. So technically after this, I would say the next thing that is most important to start playing right away is to get your equipment. But we'll go ahead and go to the next tab real quick. I'm going to start speeding along here for this session a little bit. So this is going to be your background story, your character details. These are D&D Beyond will give you suggestions. The most important thing here that actually will affect your character, I should have said, I forgot, is these are backgrounds, something from your past. Was your character a hermit and lived in the woods or something like that until for some reason he was brought into adventuring? Well, from being a hermit, he's really good with nature, one with nature, so he gets a +1 to nature proficiency in nature or something like that. So all of these backgrounds, there's some backgrounds that are from source materials that will just tell you straight up what you get from getting these backgrounds. If you have an idea, Catherine, go ahead and select one. We'll just see what it adds. So now here's one thing that I like to say with my players and argue is if they come up with an original background and they can explain and justify to me why they would have a certain proficiency or tool proficiency. Tools are things you can use in D&D world. It's another whole thing that we can talk about if you have any questions some other time. And it sounds legit to me, and it's good. We have good rhetoric, and I believe what they say. I'll go for it. So you can do a homebrew custom background if you wish. And you can edit that as you go. It's a little tricky when you start getting into homebrew stuff, but there you go. Basic. All right, so we chose Hermit. One thing that comes with Hermit is you get another language to choose from, or language proficiency, or that you know, a language. So when you encounter another race or yeah, usually another race. Each race usually generally has like their kind of own speech. And do you speak that speech, or can you read that writing? There might be an elvish puzzle. There might be a dwarvish puzzle. You never know. Just like in Lord of the Rings, when they get to the mountain, and he's like, oh, it's dwarvish, and he reads it, and he's like, oh, what's the word for friend? Was it Belloc or something? I did I get that right? It's been a long time, actually. Anyways, and then some other things that you get. Yeah, just as before, click the pluses, and you'll see the extra little bonuses that you get. Quiet seclusion. I know there's one for bounty hunter that like you're technically anywhere you go, you can find like a source or a contact that you can like go for information, or like you go to a seedy bar and you can like that guy totally knows something, and they'll hook you up. Yeah. So there's a little explanation of any little extra bonuses they might get. I'm not gonna read that whole thing. All this extra stuff are more like just suggestions. Like suggesting characteristics, character details, personal characteristics. That's all stuff for you to fill out in your own backstory and figuring out whatnot and things and items. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next tab. That's something you can always come back to and solidify. So this is your equipment. Now, this is something for you to talk about with your DM. You can either start with, you have starting equipment that you've had, that you got through various means. Maybe your father had it lying around and you're going out on your adventure because the army needs soldiers, but your father's too old and delicate to go out into battle, so you're taking his place. Anyone get that reference?
Wait, what?
It's Mulan, basically.
Oh, got it. Okay. I was like, what anime is that from? What anime? Nope, not anime.
Oh, no. Yeah, it was just in my head. So that would be, you start out with your equipment. Another way to go is that you have money and you go to a place and buy equipment. I always just prefer just having starting equipment. So you go ahead and click starting equipment. D&D Beyond lays it out very easily for you, some things that you would start out with. You choose which weapons you have. Another good thing is they'll let you choose weapons that are usually within your proficiencies that you're good at. And there's a list on your character sheet that tells you what you're good at. And with those, that means that you get to add that little extra plus anytime to your attacks using those weapons. There it is. It's all spread out for you. You get some items from having your background. As you can see, a hermit got a winter blanket, set of common clothes, herbalism kit, so he could potentially make potions and various other things. Yeah. Gets 5 gold starting out. And so once you select all your things, click add starting equipment. And I know it looked like it didn't really do much, but it's all there. Yeah. Good thing to go in and actually do is click wield, so you'll have all those things ready to go. I always just select everything just wielded, so you just know it's available and you have ready. Let's see, what else? After this, you are pretty much done with character creation. Although there is one thing that I was missing if you had a spellcaster class, that's what I was trying to say. When you are in class, there is a tab that you can hit for spells, so you can start selecting your spells right away. If you miss that though, let's go ahead and click what's the arrow. What's next? So you can either hit what's next, click view character sheet, or as soon as it's available to you, you can click up at the top next to what's next. There's this little page looking icon. You click that, it's the same thing as hitting view character sheet. And there's Catherine's sweet, beautiful angel character sheet. There's a lot there, as you can see. I like to kind of divide it up into columns if you're looking at it. If you look on the left, so you have your ability scores with the ability modifiers kind of over on the left, and then there's a column underneath there to the left, which is your saving throws. Sometimes the DM's going to say make a saving throw, and then you just use those modifiers. There you have your passive wisdom, passive intelligence, passive insight, in case the DM needs to make secret rolls and see if any of them pick up on it. Going down further, if you just scroll down on that left column still, you have your proficiencies, the languages you know, and the tools that you're good at using. Now the middle column, those are the skills that we keep talking about. Those are things that you're good at and things that you're bad at that are based off of your ability score modifiers and help to them, or any proficiencies you chose. Which you see the athletics is +5. Was it perception? What did you choose on that very first page for proficiency with that
Perception and
barbarian?
athletics for
Yeah,
barbarian.
so there you see they got numbers to them. Oh, yeah. And then on your right side here in the right column, the big box is it's got smaller columns within it, but those are your actions. Things that you can do once you're in combat. Or some of it out of combat. So I was talking about spells and choosing your spells. We're almost done here for now, the easy stuff. If you didn't choose your spells in your spellcaster and you missed it, you can go up and click on spells.
Okay. Where do we do that?
So next to actions, under the initiative, there you go, spells.
Yeah.
And then
Manage
and then you hit manage spells.
Okay.
And then you scroll up. Oh, yeah, you're a barbarian. So, on Holly's page as a wizard, after clicking Manage Spells, she would see at the top you can click Known Spells or Add Spells. I can't remember myself at the moment. But
Add
then
spells, prepared spells, and spellbook.
Add Spells, yeah. So, as it drops down, you can then select the spells that you want. I should say, clerics and wizards. I actually haven't played a warlock before. I know for certain. You let me know if I'm wrong, Catherine. Clerics and wizards, they have certain spells that at the beginning of their day, generally, or if they have a long period of time between things, prepare certain spells. So they have access to a very large number of spells, and they just decide what spells they think they might need for the day. Or if, like, you are able to fit in a long rest in the middle of the day, you can prepare different spells if you know you're going into a different situation later. So you're not married to those spells. Unlike a sorcerer or a bard generally gets stuck with their spells.
Yeah, and in terms of the cleric and wizard distinction, wizards have a slightly more complicated system related to their spells, as the cleric can take any spell from their spell list as listed in the handbook, but a wizard, which is interesting because it makes their spells more personal to them, slowly accumulates a massive amount of spells. And what that happens is, like, with every level up, they can add more spells to their prepared registry. But a wizard, unlike any other class, can see a spell out in the world and transcribe it to their spell book for a cost, and then has that spell to access as long as they have their spell book.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Let's just scroll up a little here. So, as you can see in that shield is your armor class, very important to keep track of and know. We have our hit points up in the corner. Yeah, so there's a lot here. As we go and play, you'll learn as you go. And as you just saw Catherine do, one of the best things about D&D Beyond is if you're unsure about something, you can generally click it and it'll tell you what it does. Like, go ahead and click back. There you go. Speed. There's a whole thing about what your speed is and what speed means and how it relates to jumping and various other things and whatnot. Let's see. Catherine has one spell, which I believe she's got through her race. Light. If you don't know what the spell is, click it. As you're choosing your spells, as Holly's probably looking at, if you click any of those spells when you're looking at them, it'll tell you what it does.
Yep.
Very cool.
I have picked all of my spells because they are all reminiscent of the spells that Sailor Mercury has in the show.
That's so cool. I love
So
it.
a lot of fog and water and ice spells. So
Very, very cool.
true for a water genasi as well.
I love it. All right. So, unfortunately, I think that's all the time I have today, but you're off to a great start if you followed this and you have all your things done. As I said, nothing's, for me at least, nothing is set in stone unless you do it in the game. So you can always go back and change anything. I've kind of fudged things sometimes, even where I was like, I haven't chosen my class yet, but we're playing, and like I didn't technically need to choose it still, so I went back and changed my mind. I don't know. Anyways, it depends who you're playing with, but I like to say it didn't. It's not solidified until it happens in the game, in the world. So go ahead and play around, change things up. Eventually, when you start leveling up, as you saw, it'll let you know what you have to change, and your DM will help you if we're together playing, and whoever's watching this, I don't know. Anyways, thank you so much for staying with me. Thank Catherine, Holly. It's been a pleasure. And have a great day.